After Jesus, Mary, and the 12 apostles, St. Nicholas of Myra is the one saint featured in more icons of the Eastern churches. And in the Russian church, Nicholas is honored more than any other saint after the apostles. While very little is known about his life, legends about St. Nicholas have sprung up throughout church history as devotion of him has grown, leading to the popular folklore we celebrate today in Santa Claus. Even in the classic poem by Clement Moore that begins, "'Twas the night before Christmas," the name Santa Claus in fact never appears in the poem. Rather, the poem is entitled, "A Visit from St. Nicholas." And Santa Claus, whose generosity as the great gift giver at Christmas emulates the great generosity St. Nicholas was known for to the poor in his care as their bishop. Dying in 343 AD at the age of 73, St. Nicholas was Bishop of Myra, modern-day Anatolia in southern Turkey, during the persecution of Roman Emperor Diocletian, during which Nicholas suffered imprisonment, but did not die a martyr's death. And long before God famously said to St. Francis of Assisi, "Francis, rebuild my church," St. Nicholas had the task of literally rebuilding his diocese, regathering his flock following the worst of the Roman persecutions. It is said that Nicholas was one of the participants in the Council of Nicaea, during which he slapped the heretic Arius. It is also said that he was formally reprimanded by the council for doing so, but, as they say, he got it on the record. Among his most famous stories is his throwing 3 bags of gold through a window in a home of a poor father of 3 daughters, whose poverty was forcing him to give his girls into prostitution because they were too poor to be married off, having no money for any dowry to any prospective husband. Nicholas's generosity enabled the father to pay a dowry for each of them, rescuing them from a life of prostitution. Other stories speak of miraculous acts of St. Nicholas, as well as interventions to save those destined for execution. Even after his death, having been originally buried, they say, on the small Turkish island of Gemil, he was eventually reinterred in St. Nicholas Church in Demre, from which, in 1071, to rescue his remains from Turkish raiders, merchants from Bari removed Nicholas's remains, bringing them back to Bari, where to this day they are interred in the Basilica of San Nicola. And because of this history, he is also the patron saint of merchants and sailors. Numerous churches are named for him, and he is among the most popular saints in the Greek and Russian Orthodox churches. The legacy of St. Nicholas continues to live on as an image of holiness, generosity, orthodoxy, and courage. A good shepherd who cared for his flock, and is a true Christian icon to all who have a devotion to him.